Welcome to the Lowdown here on PodcastHeatWrestling.com. I'm Derek Sabato with the man, the myth, the legend, D'Lo Brown. D'Lo, how we doing tonight?
My man, I'm doing great. We got SummerSlam in the rearview mirror, and we are full steam ahead. Um, man, what a week for wrestling. That's all I'm going to say is what a week for wrestling.
What a week for wrestling. Thank you all for joining us here. It is live, and we're talking about the Nation of Domination. Now, D'Lo gets into one of the most infamous groups in professional wrestling's history. Before we get started, super chats are always at the front of the line. If you got a question about anything we're discussing, including the Nation of Domination, drop it in there. Also, any questions, hit like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and we are live. D'Lo, highlight, low light, SummerSlam. What's your highlight? What's your low light?
I mean, highlight is just watching the interaction between Cody and Cena in that match, and watching how they were walking on a razor's edge, because there was a point there I felt Cody could turn heel by his mannerisms and the way he was doing things, holding the belt, looking at Cena. Low light is just, some people just falling short of expectations. It just seems like I don't know, and I don't know her personally, but it seems like they've run the table with like someone like Jade Cargill. So, and then I give you another highlight. I love the Alexa Bliss Charlotte Flair interaction. So
Yeah.
I mean, there's good and there's some negative, but I mean, two nights and they drew the greatest SummerSlam of all time. So who am I to argue?
It's true. One of my highlights was Naomi and her victory in that triple threat match. I will also tell you one of the surreal moments was seeing the Dudley Boys and the Hardy Boys kind of promoted for a TNA pay-per-view match. What a world we live in, D'Lo.
Just a strange turn of events when you're actually watching one of the core four pay-per-views, and in there's a 30-second drop on, hey, tune in 4 weeks for a TNA pay-per-view where these two teams are going to go at it for the last time.
It just, when you think about things 5-6 years ago, not on my bingo card, but here we are.
It's just weird in a world where we lived behind so many ironclad walls when it came to one company compared to the next, and now it seems like there's a free flow from all companies, including the giant amongst giants, the number one company, the WWE, which is so far out there. It's amazing.
It is amazing. And what we're discussing today, our topic is you joining the Nation of Domination, really getting into the World Wrestling Federation. Folks, again, any super chats, questions, please hop into the chat. We are here to be interactive with you, and we want to make sure that you are enjoying the Lowdown with D'Lo Brown every week on PodcastHeatWrestling.com. We touched on it a couple weeks ago that it was Jim Cornette that recommended you for the spot in the Nation of Domination. What does that mean when Jim calls you and says, hey, we need you in New York ASAP?
Well, see, it didn't turn out that way. It wasn't Jim calling me. It was actually me calling Jim, because I was in Puerto Rico and I was off the radar, and I'd come home for Christmas break, and I just do the random, back in the day, you go through your Rolodex and let everybody know you're still breathing. So I called Jim just to give him a hey update, and he goes, "Where the hell you been?" And I said, "Puerto Rico." And then he goes, "Hold on," and he hangs up on me. And then he called me back in about 20 minutes, said, "Hey, can you be in New York this weekend?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "You have a suit?" And I said, "Of course I do." And then when I hung up the phone, I looked at my girlfriend and said, "I need to go get a suit."
Yep.
And that's how my spot in the Nation came about. They were looking for that guy, because if you had noticed back in the day when Clarence Mason's guys were there, they were getting a lot of heat on people, but none of those guys were trained wrestlers. So in the world of wrestling, people are getting heat, but the baby faces can never get a comeuppance back on the heels. They were just getting heat and then standing there. So they needed a bump guy who could take, who could be there for the baby faces, to get, be the fodder for the baby faces. So that became my role. And as soon as I called Cornette, he's like, "Been looking for you. Let me call them." And from there, my next phone call was WWF Travel. And then I was on a plane 3 days later to New York City.
What was the role of Jim Ross in this scenario? Did he sit down and talk contract with you? What was that like?
No, that was just literally my first night in was let's see how it goes. Like go out there and just do what they ask you to do and let's see how it goes. And JR was just like, hey, good to see you here. And later found out it was Cornette and Ross who were the ones who had pitched me for this spot and then
Got
really
it.
put the stamp of approval on it because they, obviously my work in Smoky Mountain. JR had called several of my matches, and obviously Jim is the one that gave me the job. So they were the ones that really, really gave me the thumbs up to the office.
I gotta ask, was there an initiation from Ron Simmons for you to join the Nation of Domination?
You know, luckily, no. Ron just looked at me, and it was one of those: if you're gonna be here, you better do it right. That was it. It was understood that this is how it's supposed to be. And see, Ron wasn't about ribs or initiations because I would love to use the term we use to describe Ron Simmons, but it's not PG enough. But
Yeah.
he wasn't about ribs or anything like that. He was just like, you earn your spot, and if you don't earn your spot, someone else will come and earn it for you. So if you're given an opportunity, go out there and take full advantage of it.
Was this your first time meeting him?
Yes. At that up until then, my closest interaction with him was in Baltimore the night he won the world title. I was sitting in the crowd. That
Wow.
was my closest interaction with Ron Simmons up until that moment. So walking in that door and Ron was literally the dude I idolized when it was one of those guys I was like, I want to be him. And then to be right there in front of him and he's larger than life in person, it was like, wow. Unbelievable. Here I am. I'm interacting and talking with Ron. First of all, I better not let myself down. And I damn sure I better not let him down.
Did you tell him that you were there that night in Baltimore?
I did not tell him that until probably a year later when we were standing in the Baltimore arena doing a promo. And you've been to Raw where it's like the bad guys walk to the ring and they're about to cut a promo and you go to commercial break. So there's that awkward 2.5 minutes, right? So we go to commercial break and I'm looking around and I'm looking around and I hear Ron go, D'Lo, what you doing? And I go, hold on. And I'm looking. He goes, what are you doing? I go, Ron, right there. He goes, right where? I said, right there. Right there where I was sitting the night you won the world title. And he looks at me and you hear, we're back in 3, 2, and he snaps into blah, 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 and we're doing our promo, right? So then as we go through the gorilla, I walk up, and as I go through the curtain, I get this hand on my shoulder. Ron spins me around. He goes, don't you ever do that to me again. And I'm like, oh, what did I do? He goes, don't you ever almost make me cry on national TV. Now go on. And he gave me a big old hug. And that was the moment I really knew I was part of the deal. I was in.
Man, when you just think about everything Ron's done and for you to get that opportunity, like that's one of the coolest stories I've ever heard in professional wrestling for you to be able to do that. Have you gotten a chance to make him cry?
You can't make Ron cry.
Okay.
You can get him close, but you can't make him cry. Ron is he's like the Rock of Gibraltar. You can't get him to cry. But I will tell you, it's people have always said never, be careful meeting your heroes because they're bound to disappoint you. From the minute I met him, that man was better than I ever imagined in my mind. He was better than I ever imagined in person. And he's, for as great of a wrestler as he is, he's a far better man. And I every time I'm near him, every time I'm around him, it still rocks my world that I'm in his orbit and I'm there with him. And it's weird that you go from your idol becoming your mentor to becoming your friend. And I'll call Ron right now if I want to paint my room purple. I'll go, Ron, what do you think about the purple room? He goes, well, I think it's dumb, but if you want to paint your damn room purple, go on and do it.
Have we figured out if Ron has a laptop or an iPad?
Ron does not, and he still has an old school phone. Like I'll try to send pictures to him, and he's like, I can't see it.
We got to figure this
So
out. We
yeah, no,
we gotta do this. So we'll talk
I, I'll,
offline.
I'll I'll get Ron. I'm gonna get Ron on this podcast.
We'll
I'm gonna
figure it
make
out.
that promise.
I do. As soon as we hang up, I'm gonna text JBL and be like, "Have you ever seen Ron Simmons cry?" And I hope that he's got the same answer as you, other than crying from laughter.
Yeah. Now, crying from laughter is nothing. I've never seen Ron cry. I've never seen him break. I've never seen. Now, I've seen him sad. I've seen him mad. I've never seen him come to tears.
All right, I'm going to ask that question. We'll have a follow up here next week on the lowdown because I feel like the answer is going to be the same as yours, but I never know with JBL. I mean, he could also just say,
Well, he spent a lot more late time hours with Ron, if you know what I
"It's
mean.
true. That's true. That's true." Speaking of late
And
time hours,
go ahead.
your debut, Shotgun Saturday
Shotgun
Night.
Saturday Night. Yes.
You are at TV for the first time. You are
Yeah.
in your suit,
Yes, sir.
and we're sitting backstage in New York, and you're sitting here waiting. What am I going to do? And the response is, you're going to get a Pearl River plunge on a car.
Yeah. The funny thing about it, that was my idea.
Okay, tell me this story about Ahmed Johnson on your debut night in the WWF hitting you with a Pearl River plunge on a car.
Okay, so it's no, crazy story. I was a backyarder. I bumped in the backyard and bumped on grass, that kind of thing. So when we got there, I think the spot was originally he was just we're gonna fight up on top of the roof. He was just gonna slam me or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking once again, I got to get my moment. I got to steal my moment. I go, why don't you hit me with your finish on the top of the car? We were already going to wreck the car with the slam or whatever it was on the car. I was like, hit me with your deal on top of the car. And he was like, really? And then so I want to say it was Dr. Tom might have been working with us then. And he was like, oh yeah, cool. That'd be good. And everybody was like, are you ever able to take it? I'm like, it'll be no problem. I had done this in my backyard on the streets with my boys 100
Right.
times. It's backyard stuff. So we go do the deal, and Ahmed hooks me up. Boom, Pearl Rivers me. Obviously, big bump. So we go to commercial break. So during the commercial break, we walk back up, and I've got to walk past. It was in Webster Hall, famous club from New York City. The way it was built, it's not like a typical arena where you have a production area and then the locker room. You got to walk right past where everybody was to get up the steps to get back in the locker room. And when I go up there, I get grabbed, and I looked, and it's Vince McMahon grabbed my arm and goes, come here. And he makes me come over and watch the replay of it as we come back from break. And he goes, that was awesome. And I was like, nailed it. Got it. I got the old man's attention, and I did something that he popped for. So I took my 2 minutes and I made it important.
You know where I'm going with this after. Ahmed Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
Quite the cat.
Yeah.
Heard these stories. What was Ahmed like that night?
That night he was fine because he was just dropping me on top of a car. He didn't have a care. So he was fine to interact with. He was happy that I suggested his finish on the car because that's going to make him look good. And that was my goal, was to put him in a position where he looked really good to the fans, but then to the office, it made me really look good. That was my ultimate okey doke. But yeah, he was okay that night.
Where did it go wrong with you and Ahmed?
Ahmed and I just never meshed. We never really got along. Different worlds, different cultures, and different ways of looking at the business. And I looked at it more of a traditional, old school, like, this is the rules of wrestling backstage. It's how you handle yourself. Whereas, Ahmed was fast tracked through world class, and he had a different perspective on how the business is supposed to be. And none of the normal cordial stuff was around with him when it came to being backstage and wrestling. So we're just two different people who just didn't see eye to eye.
What was the day or what happened? And was it something that just built up gradually to it? Or at some point, did you just have enough?
The night it all boiled over, we were in, I want to say it was, I forget. I forget where we were, but he was wrestling. Ahmed was going to wrestle Rocky. And they were having a full on argument before the match on who was going to do what was going to happen. And Ahmed went all thug on Rocky. He said something like he was going to smoke Rocky or he was going to do this and that. And I piped up and was like, man, nobody's going to smoke anybody. Let's just go out there and wrestle and have fun. And when he then, as the competition came to a close, he looked at Rocky and goes, we'll talk about this later. He looked at me and said, don't you ever talk to me like that again. And I'm sorry, I'm a full grown man. No one speaks to me that way. I just said, bruh, I don't know who you're talking to, but it ain't me. And you can take that somewhere else. And I don't think I used that in nicer words, but basically stood my ground. And then it boiled over into a little scuffle in the locker room. And Ahmed kind of got tied up and held down, and I gave him a browbeating.
Was Ron Simmons there?
Oh, yeah, Ron was there. One of the famous lines was Ron and Godfather were right behind me, and I could feel them pulling on my shoulders, and I could hear Godfather going, D'Lo, if you let him go, we can get him away from you. Because I had him all tied up, and I was pinning him down, and I was cutting a D'Lo Brown promo to his face from 6 inches away.
When you think back to the evolution of that, your first night, hit me with your finish on a car to where you're at that point. Is it just something that just like, how do we get here?
Of course, I'm like, how do we get here? Then I thought I was going to get fired because, Ahmed is a top guy in the company.
Yeah.
He's one of the core four at that point. And here I am barely out of a suit, bow tie guy. And I'm getting into a fight with one of the top guys. So we go to Jim Ross's production talent relations office the next day to have a discussion about what happened. And I swore I was getting fired. I walked in there and I was like, man, okay, whatever he says, I'm just going to take it because I should have held my temper. And JR looked at me and he goes, boys, here we had a little problem. And his words were as clear as day. He goes, boys, either we're going to have to get along. And he looked over at Ahmed and he goes, or one of us is going to have to get along. And that just meant that at that point, I wasn't going to get in trouble. And they understood it wasn't my issue that we got in that fight. And to me, man, A, a relief, B, a sense of pride because the office chose me in many ways. And I remember leaving the office and Ron going, my boy. And he grabbed my shoulder and goes, my boy. And we just walked out, and that was the last we ever spoke of it. And I never even liked talking about that night. But it's been in recent when other people have told the story. Now I've got to speak up on it.
Yeah. Were you there the night he left the company?
Yes, because he was wrestling Kurgan. And they were Kurgan was gonna, we used to call it scullying, because he would put the claw on you and he'd claw you and he'd walk you up the ramp. And they were going to do that Kurgan was going to do that to Ahmed, and Ahmed refused to, and that's how he left the company. That was pretty much if Kurgan was going to do that to you, that was pretty much your swan song in the company anyway.
Right.
And I think Ahmed knew that, and he'd rather quit than to do the favor that way.
Have you seen Ahmed since?
Yes. Ahmed is a large individual. I don't shame anybody. He's a large individual.
Got it. Well, we'll move on from there. Another large individual, a big intimidating person, was Brian Adams' crush. Now, everyone, I think, kind of forgets what the Nation was like in the beginning. It was Farouk, it was PG-13, it was Clarence Mason, it was Crush.
Yeah. And
Was
Savio.
Crush, and we're not there yet, sir.
Okay.
You're advancing the story. Hold on, we're not there yet.
Okay.
Crush. This is a man who's done legit jail time. This is a man who's got a tattoo on his face.
Yes.
Was he that intimidating in person?
Yes, until you talk to him and you realize he had the heart of a damn grizzly bear that just wanted to hug you. He's one of those dudes where if you fell in under his circle, he'd protect you, he'd fight for you. That was the guy you want in a bar next to you. No words were said. If someone was messing with you, he would be the first one over there punching someone in the face, and he would ask questions as we were in the car driving away. Like, that was Crush. Like, he was there. I'm defending my boys. Boom. So he was intimidating until he started talking, and then he had this big boisterous laugh. He was always smiling. He was always like, I loved the man. Loved him dearly.
Do you think the Chronic gimmick was the right gimmick for Bryan Adams?
I like Chronic. I like the Chronic gimmick. I think it was undersold. I personally liked the Chronic gimmick. I'm a big Adam Bomb fan too. So when Brian Clark was in that, those two guys complemented each other.
Man, you talk about somebody who I don't know how they missed on, but like,
bro, if you want to talk about the look of a professional wrestler,
everything.
If there are two guys to me that have the perfect look of a wrestler, Sid Vicious and Brian Clark.
Yeah.
Like you could put those two in a space capsule and go pro wrestling, and any alien anywhere go, I get it. I get it. And he was one of the few characters that I liked, Adam Bomb, just because he had that look.
Yeah. Contacts, the tongue, like
the
everything.
Contacts, the look, the deep tan where he almost looked orange, like he was glowing. He had the look, he had everything, and he was one of those guys where I thought that Chronic gimmick was really, really good.
I've said this to people that worked in the WCW office at the time. I said, I can tell you that everyone can point at the finger poke of doom or this, that, the other thing. I can tell you the night that I think WCW lost it. And it was the night that Kevin Nash beat Wrath. And Wrath was on a winning streak for like 50, 55 matches. They fed him to Nash instead of Goldberg, and that told me everything I needed to know about where they were going. And it's an undersold moment in like the history of WCW. No one points to that. It's like, that's it. That to me was it. Because I remember watching that Nitro and going, why are we doing this? And why is Bam Bam Bigelow involved? And what are we really actively pushing right now? And I was 14, and I'm like, this isn't fun for me. So I'm kind of actively tuning out. So that's my Brian Clark story. Brian Clark has a podcast, by the way. He's very entertaining. So if anyone ever, looks around, make sure you hit like, subscribe to the Lowdown and drop your super chats. But Brian Clark, entertaining dude. Another entertaining dude, Clarence Mason.
Oh, love him.
What can you tell me about another man that Ernie Ladd got into the professional wrestling business?
And for those who don't know, Clarence Mason is a legit real lawyer. So what you saw on TV is really him. And Clarence is a wrestling fan from day one. He goes back to old Florida Championship Wrestling days. Like, he knows the stuff. And I didn't realize that until I'm around him, hanging around him and talking. I'm like, as he's throwing stuff at me, I'm like, I never pictured you being this dude. One of those wholesome guys. I've been to Clarence's house. I've been to his law firm. He's one of those dudes that he should have been around wrestling a lot more, but he had other things to do, like filing legal briefs for real.
Yeah. Hey, we got a question in the chat. I'm going to pull up real quick. John Redondo. Derek Spotter, you need to do an interview on the Lowdown for a Q&A with D'Lo and Clarence Mason. Working on it. So
working on it.
The man is busy. I can tell you. D'Lo's right. Legit lawyer.
He's legit. What is it right now? It's 8:00 Eastern time. and he's probably still working on something for tomorrow.
100%.
Even when we were on the road, you'd go to his room and he's on his computer typing up notes or briefs.
Not a gimmick.
It was not a gimmick. Legit lawyer and a legit wrestling fan.
We will work to have Clarence on. I promise you that. We're already in conversation about it. So we hope I don't think we have to worry about buying him anything, but we're going to have him on the lowdown soon. So stay tuned and tell your friends, because Clarence Mason interview doesn't happen all that often.
Yeah, please, when he gets on, please tune in, because he's very rare. He doesn't do autograph signings, doesn't do interviews. He's very much disconnected from the world of wrestling right now.
Speaking of disconnected, PG-13.
Yes.
2 dudes, white dudes, rapping, walking down the aisle. You never knew how perfect for a gimmick they were, but they were perfect. JC Ice, Wolfie D. Please tell me you got some PG-13 stories.
I'll give you the story of the day they got fired, but I'll first say, they were hype men. Straight out of Central Casting, hype men. They were there to hype the nation. And think about Ron Simmons being that big bulldog and the little chihuahua that bounced on his back. Well, imagine 2 of them dancing in concert. That was PG-13, and they were heat seekers. And in their own right, they're great wrestlers. I mean, if you ever seen the stuff they did down at USWA, one of the most over things I ever saw in my life was I was at the Pyramid in Memphis, and I watched them come out, and that crowd, they're swinging the hubcap, and the crowd they're doing the PG-13 before PG-13 was doing it, or before Public Enemy was doing it. Those guys are entertaining. Now, we're in, I want to say it's like Roanoke, Virginia. And we have to fly into Richmond and drive the, whatever it is, 100 miles over to Roanoke. Well, JC Ice is the one who really got in trouble here, whereas he was always late. Remember, they were top guys in Memphis, so they thought they had a different way of handling things, and they thought they had made it. And so JC Ice was late for a show. He missed his ride from the airport, so he had to take a taxi from Richmond to Roanoke. That ain't cheap. And so when he got to the building, he got out of the car and walked in, didn't pay the taxi cab driver. He goes, "Let me go get the money," and never came back. Well, the taxi cab driver came in, finally got put with Jack Lanza, and Jack Lanza gets JC Ice over there, and they discuss the bill, and JC Ice goes, "Can you pay it?" And he's looking at Lanza and goes, "You pay it." And he walks away.
Oh.
And Lanza just looked. He reached in his bag, pulled out, because Jack Lanza carried money around for draws. That was money advances we used to get back in the day. He went in there, wrote a receipt, handed the man whatever it was, $150, $200, and got the cab driver out of there so he could get his way back to Richmond. And JC Ice was on his way back to the hotel right after that, and he was no longer employed.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Now, Royal Rumble 1997 is the first pay-per-view you're a part of. It's at the Alamo Dome. 60,000 people.
Yeah.
You go from, and no slight on Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico draws some houses.
Mm-hmm.
You are within weeks in front of a crowd of 60,000 people.
Yeah.
What is that like for you?
Awe-inspiring. I had never seen anything like that on any level. I mean, we're at the Alamo Dome, and it's to the rafters, and you don't hear the crowd, you feel it on your skin. You feel the pressure from the applause or the yelling or the booing. And I mean, hell, I'm in this building, and I'm looking around. There's more people in this building than are in my hometown that I grew up in. And it's just, I go from wrestling in front of 600 to 60,000. And I didn't wrestle, and just being out there. it took a minute to process. I couldn't really wrap my brain around it until I was back in the hotel that night going, my God, did that just really happen? Did that really just happen? And then it was shock and awe of the moment to now it's the adrenaline drug of I want that again. Now I want to be in the ring with that many people because I want to feel that. So then the adrenaline junkie comes in and it's like, now I want more, I want more, I want more. So now it's, I've got to be part of this company. I've got to sign with this company. I've got to stay here because this is what I want.
It's a big match that night, Farouk and Ahmed.
Yeah.
Your
Ahmed, he felt that match that night.
Ron Simmons lays it in.
Yes.
Ahmed, excuse me. Ahmed also laid in a 2x4 shot, did he not?
Yes, he did. And that's where kind of Ron kind of turned the corner and just, I mean, being ringside is the greatest seat in the house because I'm close enough where I'm part of the action without being in the ring. So I can hear everything. I can literally feel everything because I can see the thuds. And man, there was a point there where Ron was beating on Ahmed. It reminded me of like when I did something wrong and my grandfather had to take me out back with the switch. That's how it was watching that match. It was Ron just beating the hell out of Ahmed and teaching him lessons along the way.
Did they ever get along? Because it felt like from Jump Street, they didn't click.
They didn't click, and that's Ron's story to tell, and we'll get him on here, and maybe he'll tell it. But no, again, they didn't mesh, just personality conflicts. And once again, I fall in line step with Ron.
Of course.
So, and that was the way I thought about the business as well. So if the things offended me that Ahmed did, they were at the byproduct of them already offending Ron. And just the way Ahmed carried himself, the way he handled himself, acted in the locker room, in the ring, taking liberties, just counterproductive to everything that wrestling's supposed to be.
One of the people that is not counterproductive to professional wrestling is Savio Vega, a man who's done everything everywhere and has been from the top, drawing 20, 25,000 people to working his Quang. Here, he joins the Nation on a non-televised show at MSG. What was Savio like back then and him entering the group for you guys?
It was cool because Savio was a teacher. Like he wanted everyone to be at the top of their game. So he would take extra care with guys like, with me, and talking to me after matches, do this, don't do this. This was good. This really sucked. And he was really into making sure this group, because he wanted to be part of it, because Savio has been a top guy in Puerto Rico. And this was one of the first real top spots he had gotten. He'd gotten a few mid-card spots. This is going to be his first top spot in the WWF. And he wanted this to work. And then when he's there with Ron, once again, everyone looks at Ron and never wants to let Ron down. So everyone's going to work there. Everyone up their game. And Savio is no exception. He wanted it to work fiercely with the Nation, and it did.
I got to ask, just because you got Savio joining the group now, you're kind of fourth or fifth, depending upon where you're at in the rotation. Was it a worry that you weren't getting the opportunity to step up and start working matches with Savio getting involved in the group?
No, because Ron was always there going, don't worry, be patient. Don't worry. It's going to happen. And then on the house shows, I was getting all the reps in the world. I was just never getting reps on TV until later on. But I was on the house show. I was opening up every house show. And then I was closing the show, standing ringside with Ron. So I was getting my reps, and I was building a reputation inside the company as a hard worker, someone you could rely on. And Ron would always be encouraging, going, "Don't worry, it's only a matter of time. Just got to find the right spot. You don't want to rush it. You'd rather wait a couple extra months and get it right than them force you out there and be rotten and fall down." So I'm listening to Ron's advice and just taking his heed and following his footsteps.
Speaking of rotten, there's a great segment on Shotgun Saturday night. You're in the production area. You're being chased by Phineas Godwin. He goes to slop you, but instead, Pat Patterson gets it instead. So I gotta ask, was that a rib?
Yeah, that was a rib on Pat. That was a rib on Pat. That was always there. Inside wrestling, a lot of the things you see on TV are things not for the crowd. It's to do what's called pop the boys. And it's for the boys to laugh in the back. Naked Midian was another one of examples of those. Pat Patterson getting slopped. Those were things that were just it's to make Vince belly laugh, and it's to make the boys belly laugh. So yes, that was a rib on Pat.
Did you really need to bring up Naked Midian?
Bro, it just popped in my head, so I figure I'd leave everybody with that same image.
Yeah, no. See, that one could have stayed in your head. A major date in the history of the World Wrestling Federation. It's February 13th, 1997. It's Lowell, Massachusetts. It's a live Thursday Raw because it got moved. Shawn Michaels loses his smile.
Yeah.
What is the feeling of you, possibly your Nation of Domination members in the locker room as Shawn's out there holding back tears, saying he lost a smile?
See, for me, not being in the active wrestling part at that point, it didn't really dawn on me or hit me other than from a fan perspective of, here's Shawn Michaels. Here's the guy who carried the company for the last 5 or so years, and now he's going to walk away. And now on the wrestling side of it, DX had just started to form, and we knew that we were going to start interacting with them. And I was looking forward to interacting with Shawn. He's the only guy I've never really bumped for, and I really wanted to. And for wrestling, it was a sad day. For us, it was all right. Selfishly, top dog is going away, and there's a lot of air up there for somebody to take. Let's go grab an opportunity.
When you think about the old school mentality of you drop the belt in the ring, you do it on your back. There's Shawn forfeiting the title.
Yeah.
And he returns almost 7 weeks later. Was there animosity in that locker room towards Shawn and the way he handled business?
It was. I'll use the words of Vince McMahon here. The time-honored tradition of doing it in the ring is something that was always sacred. It's part of doing business. Someone did the favor for you on your way up. You have to do your favor on your way out. And for it not to happen that way, it just seemed like there was a different set of rules for different people. And I can only imagine someone else who was not in that position trying to pull that same power play, it backfiring crazily. So it just seemed like a different set of rules for different people.
Speaking of different set of rules for different people, Triple H drops the Intercontinental title that night to Rocky Maivia, the blue chipper, the rookie. Big Pop gets over. The rumor and innuendo has always been that there's been an issue with Shawn and Hunter and Rocky. They were trying to keep him down. Did you see anything that fits that narrative or know of anything that goes along with that?
I will say that the rumor and innuendo, to coin a phrase, where there's smoke, there's fire. And again, that's not my story to tell. But I will say those two always didn't see them eye to eye. And I wonder if it had to do a lot with they were both on the same track at the same time. And there was a little bit of, I need to get ahead of this guy or he needs to get ahead of this guy. And if I can hold him down, I can elevate up either way. But yeah, where there's smoke, there's fire. And I'll without going too far inside baseball, I'll go there.
What was the relationship between the Nation and The Rock at this point, early 1997? Had Rocky kind of started to become someone that wanted to learn from Ron or anything like that? Or is it still, he's still a couple months away from that when he joins the actual group?
Yeah, we're still away from that because the interaction didn't start until Rocky had gone out. He had I think he had gotten meniscus surgery
Yep.
or something. He hurt his knee, and in that time off, um, they had dropped the hint that maybe he's going to come in because now he can learn under Ron,
Yeah.
and he can also hide in a group so he can kind of make mistakes without it being the spotlight being directly on the mistake. And that was the beauty of being in that group. We had cover of 3 or 4 other guys. So if we fell down, they could pick us up. And that was the mindset with Rocky was let's bring him in. Let's put a fresh coat of paint on him, turn him heel. And now he can sit at the feet of Ron Simmons and really learn how it is to be a heel and get over. And I don't care what anybody says, without that pivotal moment of Rocky joining the Nation and being there, I don't know if we have the final boss today.
Same.
It's in the growth of what The Rock became. The Nation was the foundation The Rock stood on and was able to stand strong.
Speaking of standing strong, we're going to cut off our conversation about you joining the Nation of Domination right here because we're going to get to some of the fan questions. Ash Perez, D'Lo, question about the Nation of Domination. If the Nation of Domination goes to the Hall of Fame, who inducts the Nation like a request from all the members?
That's a good question. I tell you, I think the fitting honor to induct the Nation into the Hall of Fame would be Ron Simmons himself, because it was his idea, it was his brainchild, it was his will that brought life to that group, and it was his will that kept that group together and strong. So, I mean, once again, without Ron, there is no Nation. So the only fitting member to induct the Nation in would be Ron going, damn, here's the Nation.
Next question's from Purist Wrestling. Who was more insane in the Nation on pitching ideas or storylines? Mark Henry, Savio Vega, Godfather,
Ooh.
PG-13, Owen Hart, Crush, Owen Hart again, Ron Simmons, or The Rock? Who is the most outlandish ideas in pitching from the Nation?
Well, given the way this question is written, I will go Owen Hart since he's on here twice. No,
Yep.
I will say Mark Henry, because Mark was always really trying to Mark was trying to show who he was backstage, because he had been big, strong, tough guy, one-dimensional, I'll punch you in the face. And we all knew he's that, yes.
Yeah.
But Mark is more. He had so much charisma backstage, so much character backstage, and he always pushed hard to get that out there. And that's where it led into the sexual chocolate gimmick, and then into me and Mark being a tag team and going on dates with China to Mae Young. This was all Mark's idea. So Mark was really pushing hard with crazy ideas.
Naked Midian, Mae Young, we're hitting every bad bingo card.
Hey,
It feels like at this point.
I could say the hand, and you'll never forget that either. See,
how do we go 8 weeks without talking about the hand? I'm so glad we finally checked that box. Callister Daniel Garcia, loved your matches in the IWA versus Shane the Glamour Boy. Your matches with Jeff Jarrett, X-Pac, and Val Venus were fantastic. Check out our previous episode where we watched back 2 of those matches from SummerSlam.
yes.
Sad Lowdown was wasted. I don't know how to tell you this, but we are working on getting Chaz. We're going to have a Lowdown reunion here on the Lowdown. I promise you that. Hopefully sooner than later. D'Lo, we sad you got pushed to the side when the Four Radicals arrived. We'll get to that story one day. Don't you worry about that. We'll get to that story one day. Next week, we have a couple opportunities to talk to a couple people. We don't know when we're going to get that confirmed, so we're not going to tease it. But what we will tell you is the next episode that just me and D'Lo, we'll be watching back the infamous 4-way tag team title match live on Monday Night Raw, the main event. It's D'Lo teaming up with The Rock, taking on the New Age Outlaws, Steve Austin, The Undertaker, Kane and Mankind from Raw is War, August of 1998. We will watch it back, break it down, just like we broke it down last week with Val and Jeff. We're going to break this one down 8 of the biggest stars in the history of professional wrestling on one platform, one match, one of the most viewed matches in WWF YouTube history, by the way. We have a lot to get into on that. D'Lo, do you think we missed anything on you joining the WWF and the Nation?
No, I think we covered it. I think we got we laid it out there, and I hope everyone enjoyed this talk. Oh, I've got something I promised a few weeks ago,
Oh, you have
and
it.
I haven't had the opportunity to bring her out.
There it is.
My baby, here she is.
The original European title. Bump it up.
You see the block logo. You can tell she's
the
original.
Illegal logo.
Yep. And this is my baby. She goes with me everywhere. My girl.
How much would it cost?
Not enough money. Not enough money. That's for my daughters. That's for my daughters. They can, when I take my final dirt nap, they can sell it and do whatever they want with it. And I hope they get a pretty good penny for it.
Matthew, I'm going to get to your question for one reason and one reason only. D'Lo, how did you rehearse the truck glass bump from Steve Austin? And also, did Steve Austin throw the IC title off a bridge, or was it a replica? We're not. No.
Okay.
We're saving that one.
Okay. All right.
We're going to save that one, Matthew. At least the glass bump, because there's a whole lot to get into as 1997 evolves, and we're going to get to that later on this year. But I will ask the question about the title. Do you know what title that was that Steve Austin threw off the bridge?
I want to see. I believe it was an older version of the IC belt because there were no replicas back then.
Yeah.
It was only original belts. And I think it was an older decommissioned model. Because once again, whenever you see one copy of a belt, there's probably 10 others in the production office. And in the office back in Stanford, there's multiple copies of it. So I just think it was a decommissioned one that was thrown into the river. But yes, it was a real belt thrown into the river by Steve Austin.
How do I ask this next question? How heavy are they?
Different belts have different girth and weight to them.
It's got a green back?
Oh, yeah.
Wow. So this is one of the originals.
Yes, sir. You don't really see the greenback much often.
No, yes, that's a big deal to belt dudes.
This is my girl. Yes, I know. That's why I keep her under lock and key. I would say they're only about 10 pounds, but the fact that they're so wide, the weight makes it feel heavier. But it's 8 to 10 pounds.
You know what is 8 to 10 pounds?
What's that?
The rest of this night, because we're going to be wrapping up here on the lowdown with D'Lo Brown. I was hoping I was kind of teeing up a Scorpio joke, but I guess we're just going to leave it alone now.
You know what? You know what's good? I've got 2 New York strips waiting to get cooked right now. I have my Brussels sprouts are in the oven right now, going away, and bruh. As soon as I hang out with you guys,
go get you some meat. We'll be back next week here on the Lowdown with D'Lo Brown on podcastheatwrestling.com. Make sure you hit like, subscribe, turn on your notifications for when we do get the opportunity to go live like we did this week. Check out our episodes in the archives. D'Lo watches back his matches at SummerSlam, and also a lot of interesting discussion you don't want to miss only at the Lowdown with D'Lo Brown. Follow him on Twitter at D'Lo Brown75. For those fantasy football fans out there, get a cameo from D'Lo going over your fantasy draft order. I heard this was a thing the other day. If you ever want to impress your friends, that's how you do it. Get a cameo from D'Lo. Have him do your fantasy draft order. We are in or upon football season, and we will be back next week here on the Lowdown with D'Lo Brown from podcastheatwrestling.com.